So now what we're going to do is look at how to implement CSS grid using Tailwind. So essentially we're going to do this grid rendering all the products, and when we hover over each one, it shows the effect over here. So let's go ahead and implement that. So on our home page, so we've done the image container, we've done the hero. In here now, we now need to create a products module. So let's add this in and then import it. So first of all, what I want to do is close the hero banner off, and in home, create a new folder called products. And in here, create an index.tsx RAFCE, and this is called the products. Now we have the products and an individual product within each of the products. So what we want to do is utilize CSS grid to make sure everything is even. So first of all, what I'm going to do is create an outer div. So this div is essentially going to have a class name, and the class name here. So if we go back into the browser, you can see this is positioned within the center and it has a max width. So each side has a margin. So we will do mx of auto, mx-auto. It's going to have a max width of 2xl. It's going to have a padding on the x-axis of 4, and then a padding on the y-axis of 16. So then on the breakpoints, on the small breakpoint, what we want to do is we want to have a padding x of 6, and then a padding y of 24. Then on the large screen going up, we want a max width of 7xl, and also on the large screen, we want a padding x of 8. So let's save that now. And then what I also want to do is add some text for screen readers. So this is H2, and the class name for screen readers is SR-only, as we have discovered previously. So if you hover over it, these are the styles associated with it. So it won't be visible on the screen, and this is just going to say products, like so. And now what we want to do is render the grid, but now we need some grid data, or we need some products. So let's go ahead and create a new file. And in here, typically you would fetch the data from an API or so on, but I'm just going to create a JSON constant over here. So in data.ts, what I'm going to do is I have my data, so I'm going to just copy it and bring it in. We have a product type, which essentially has an ID of number, name, href, price, image source, and image alt. So we have 8 different products in here, as you can see. And now what we need to do is just render them out. So after this H2 over here, we want to create an outer div. So this is the grid div. And in here, we would have class name of grid. So if we hover over grid here, it says display grid, which is fine. Then we want to have grid columns. So grid cols of 1. So that's basically, that is the smaller screen size. So it always starts from the smaller screen size, and then when we get bigger, then the columns can increase. So we'll implement that. So we want a gap on the x-axis of 6, and then we want a gap on the y-axis of 10. And then on the small breakpoint, we want to have a grid cols of 2. So now we've got 2 columns. And then on the large, we want 3. So it's grid cols of 3, like so. And then on the XL, we want 4. So grid cols 4. And then also on the XL, I want to have a gap on the x-axis of 6. So now that is handling all of our products in the responsive way, starting from the smallest, which is 1 column, working our way up to the 4 columns mark, which is what we see in our final build over here. So all I want to do now is map through my products. So basketball products.map. So all I need to do is import this from the data, also the product type, and then we need to create this individual product. So we can do that just up here. So let's create a function called individual product, which takes in the product, and then we need to return the product in here. So let's close this off. And what I'm going to do is just bring this in. So this is our individual product. We need to import our individual product type, which we need to create. So let's create a types file. So type.ts. And in this types file, we're going to have the individual product type, and that is essentially the product type. What I also want to do is in our data.ts, we've got a type in here. So let me just take this out and put that in our types folder, like so, and now save. And then all I need to do now is import in the relevant types that we need, like so. And the individual product here, let me just quickly take a look at this. So now I've brought everything in here. Essentially, this is the div, which is the div for the image itself. We have an aspect height of 1 and a width of 1, so equal height and width. Width of full, overflow hidden, rounding. It's got a background grid, and then on the extra large screen, there's going to be aspect height of 8 and then the width of 7. So it's going to be longer vertically than horizontally. We have the image, which is rendering the image source and the alt. The image class name itself here, which essentially is object cover, object center. And then when we hover over it, it changes the opacity. Underneath, we have the product name being rendered and the price. So now everything is working correctly. I just need to quickly import the product type. And then in our home page, we just need to import the products component in here. And now if I save, so now if we check our browser, you can see here that our hero banner is being rendered along with the grid itself. So now we've looked at the grid with Tailwind CSS and how to implement it. The next thing we will look at is how to add in the light and dark mode. And then after that, we'll be looking at how to incorporate a modal. So this light and dark mode's over here, and then this modal over here, and then we are done for